Welcome back again to Calabash TV and the reality show for yet another week, and we want to welcome in our studios here with us as usual Ambrose and also Michael. It's good to see you gentlemen again after what appears to be a very eventful week in St. Lucia and globally as well. There's quite a lot happening around the world as well. So we want to again welcome you back to the reality show. I want to start with what is big current and a big achievement for St. Lucia. Laverne Spencer winning gold, our very first Commonwealth gold. It's amazing that this is our first gold, but it's happy that a young lady from Barbono is the one carrying that title. Michael, I'm sure you grew up in Barbono. You're probably familiar with our athletes and so on.
Well, Bernard, I'm sure for you and I, this is more than we could ever imagine. I mean, hailing from Barbono, both of us, having known Laverne's parents, also one of our schoolmates happens to be her manager, Mr. Dixon.
Yes.
This I must say it's very, very nice for the country, very good for Barbono. It says that over the years, of course, if you were to go for any government department or in sports, you will see how Barbono has been doing well. If you were to take a good look at that young Melius in cricket, he's really doing well. So Laverne winning the gold is really something good for St. Lucia. I think whereas some people were or are of the opinion that she's reaching her twilight days or twilight years in sports, I think it proves that age really doesn't matter, and it is a very good thing for us.
Yeah, for high jumpers, her age is just about there. She still has a couple more years, probably another Olympics and so on. Ambrose, I'm not sure if you are very familiar with Laverne.
Well, I mean, I'm familiar with her in terms of what is normally presented to the public.
Right.
And very proud to know that there's a St. Lucian who actually has a gold medal, a Commonwealth gold medal. And yes, she is aging a bit. And so it's a good thing that some might think she's approaching her twilight years, but in that sport. But it's really good at this point and at this stage that she has actually achieved such a thing. And what I do hope, one of the things I was thinking is that I'm really hoping that there's good preparation to enable her as she probably transitions into retirement, because maybe in a few years' time she will have to. I mean, she's aging. There's not a question. There's no doubt that she is. But I'm just hoping that she can retire gracefully, and obviously having reached that status of getting a gold medal, and I really hope that works out well for her, that she might get proper sponsorship and that sort of thing to really set her up well so she can retire well in the years to come. I'm really hoping. I
mean, she's reached heights that we are, not even the Caribbean, I think, we've had that kind of achievements in terms of the high jump. Yes. So this is quite amazing for a St. Lucian, and coming from a community where, man, Michael, we grew up in that area. The resources are very, very limited, so we're not very familiar with good facilities. But she was able to make it. My concern and the question I want to deal with is succession. Now that we have this world-class high jumper, what programs we put in place to ensure that her legacy is successful? Michael, you have thoughts on that?
Well, yes, I'm sure. Now that she's won the gold medal, it proves that we have the ability, we have the sports acumen in St. Lucia to see that we get to that level. There is this other young lady, I think, who is doing quite well.
Janelle Shaper,
who is doing quite well in high jumping. I am sure she's probably looking to succeed Laverne when Laverne do call it quit. So the responsibility is now that of the powers that be to ensure that the way is paved for Janelle, to ensure that when it comes to the point of Laverne stepping out of that sport, that Janelle will have all the facilities in place to ensure that she picks up and probably even surpass where Laverne is.
Ambrose, I'm a little surprised and shocked that we don't have high jump facilities at almost every school in the island, considering the fact that this is our one area that we've been able to globally establish ourselves, that we don't have the Bexon School, in the Sifra School, high jump facilities. That's a little bit worrying for me.
That's what I was thinking when Michael spoke of succession, making reference to the other young female. I was thinking, I think for a long time, not as much money has been spent in sports. I look at Jamaica and their program. I often look at Jamaica. They have something like a mini Olympic that goes on in Jamaica, where they try to encourage athletes and things of that sort. I really think that government needs to take sports more seriously, and they need to spend more money, deliberately spend more money in sports, and really and truly, and not just Janelle and Laverne, but really and truly, like you say, if we talk about succession should really make reference not just to one or two, but rather if you can widen the pool, the possibility of getting a lot more great athletes, then you will get that opportunity. I really believe that sports, more money needs to be spent on sports. There's no question about that.
Well, and if I could add here, I must confess that over the last 10 years, sports in St. Lucia seems to have been doing a lot better. As I think we could even boast right now as having the fastest a young person when it comes to 100 meters in the Caribbean now. Although she's studying in Jamaica, but again she's a proud St. Lucian. What I think we need to do is to build on that success. Okay, not to sit and say, okay, well, since we're doing so well, it's all okay. Our facilities need to be improved. Where we do not have facilities need to be put in place. Although yesterday I heard the Minister of Sports stating clearly that between now and the next 2 to 3 years, almost all the facilities will be paid some attention. My point here is, let us do it now to ensure that there is no lull between Laverne's success and whoever is going to success her, or the young Kimani Marius and whoever is going to succeed him, and all the others. We need to ensure that our sports personalities have the facilities in place to ensure that they could train and do better.
And I hope that politicians and solutions are speaking when we have something to celebrate. But even after next year, when we get around next year, we still have that passion, that energy. Because I found it a little weird, even when the budget was going on, there was Carifta going on. And I was saying that we weren't outraged as a country that we had nobody at Carifesta with a serious opportunity, except the young lady you mentioned, to win a medal for us. And I'm saying that the country should be outraged at the fact that we don't have, and it's not the fault of the athletes, it's the fact that we don't have the facilities in place, we don't have the infrastructure in place, we don't have the training, the coaching at that high level in place. I mean, we have coaches of high standard, but in terms of getting a lot more people coached in the schools to be able to give those kids the right orientation very early on, I found it strange that we were talking about the budget and all the back and forth, but we weren't concentrating on, listen, there's a global event that can unite the country and also can get us visibility across the globe, but we weren't paying attention to Carif. And if probably Laverne didn't do anything, we wouldn't pay attention to the Commonwealth either.
My goodness, you're saying this, I did not even realize that that the games were on.
Yeah,
that is very interesting. But it's sad in a way. I think I heard the Minister of Sports, as Michael said, speaking about the facilities. It concerns me also, the artificial turf thing. I hope this is not what they're referencing, and really and truly, because I know they use them on some football fields in the UK, and it's during the winter. It's probably low maintenance to some degree. But sometimes these things are done in stadiums that are covered. That's for certain. Yeah. There's covered stadiums. And so I'm really hoping that she's not referencing putting artificial turf all over the country for our sports people. And also, I don't think that's ideal, because in the Caribbean, we don't normally deal with fields of that kind anyway. This seems to be something that's very popular in Europe and America and these places. But in truth, what I've realized is that sports, I mean, even when you look at the budget, when you make reference to the budget, there's not much in there for sports. There was very little in there for sports. And I would say generally, I reference Sean. I mean, everybody would agree. I think Sean was a very good sports minister. I'm not saying that the present sports minister is not necessarily good, but I don't think I have seen it being shown that there's an aggressive desire to see the further upliftment of sport. Like you speak of succession, we should view these things succession. If Sean was doing well, I think the next step should have been that the next Minister of Sports desire to even outdo him. To me, that's what there should be, succession in terms of leadership in that department too. So really and truly, I think there needs to be an outcry. with the amount that is spent on young people when it comes to sports. It's very little, and I think for me it's necessary. The sports needs money.
Because when you invest in sports, you're not just investing in sports, you're also investing in healthcare.
Exactly.
Because if you have children and people who are healthier, chances are that they wouldn't have a lot of need for health facilities. So all the hospitals we try to get opened,
Exactly.
and we wouldn't have to spend so much money on those hospitals. But we would basically keeping our young people fit and keeping them engaged. And also it builds the morale and the esteem of the country as well, because people feel good when you have your flag flying globally. I mean, you all felt good to see Laverne out there with somebody from Britain and somebody from, I think, probably Australia, wherever, next to her. Right. And she is #1 at the Commonwealth. That's an amazing achievement for St. Lucian. And so there is that as well, that aspect of it of building the confidence of the country as well.
When you think about it, but on top of that, Laverne is #4 in the world. The world has 6 billion plus people, and she is the 4th in the whole world. This is something that we should be not just proud of in terms of lip service. This is something that this girl needs, not just a gold medal. I would give her the world. And I think that is the approach there should be. And in truth, if she of that standard, there are how many young Lavernes are there, in the wings, waiting for an opportunity to show that they are just as good and could probably be even better. Sports needs money.
Michael, I'm coming to you now. The thing is, we don't have to wait for Laverne to come and coach people and so on. The fact that she's achieved should tell you that we have a potential in an area. Let's start to put infrastructure in those schools. So when she retires, she can now give her time and so on. But now she's focusing on her career, and probably the twilight of her career, she's focusing on those things, her own future as well. In terms of that part of the succession I was talking about, identifying the areas that we're doing well in and building on it. Because if West Indies is not doing well in cricket, that's a different ballgame.
Of course, Bernard. Over the years, I think attention has been given to more like football and cricket. Even about the football, there is that thrust now for the national under 15 football team for St. Lucia. And on Saturdays, if you were to pass on the playing field in the north, you'll see the amount of young boys and young girls practicing. Having said that, I mean, as much as we've excelled in football and cricket, I mean, of course, the famous Darren Sammy becoming the captain of the West Indies cricket team. We had Johnson Charles who joined him, and we have done well in cricket. The point here is, sports supposed to be a holistic thing, not because we excel in cricket that we should focus only on cricket. Sports is a mechanism that could be used to discipline our youth, because the amount of children we have idle all over the place. The lack of facilities will push them into another arena. The powers that be need to ensure that all times that the facilities are in place, the mechanisms are in place, and of course, I am sure if this is done, the amount of criminal activities our youth are involved in will be greatly diminished.
Communities are mobilized. I mean, I don't know if you go around when there's a football final in a community, the whole community comes out, people forget the political sides, and they come to support the teams, and there's so much animation, and there's so much economic activity because everything is being sold and so on. And to me, even the economic aspect of it, because the community is mobilized when you have a football final. I mean, if you go to canneries or any of those communities when there's a football final, the whole community comes out to watch. And so I find it weird that I know we're paying attention, and we know the politicians say they're doing stuff, but let's face it, we're really not doing enough to at least get us to a level. We want to compare ourselves to Jamaica and so on, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Most certainly, there is need for a lot of work to be done, and I think, presently, I think there is a cricket competition that's just about to start, and because I heard bits and pieces of it being advertised. It's like a T20
right,
that is coming up,
SPL.
And you could tell there seems to be a buzz and excitement. Everybody's looking forward to it. Sports is important to enable getting communities together. As a matter of fact, I was listening to the one of the main guys, I think, who is from he's from Canaries Ancillary area, and he was having a conversation. And the interesting thing is, from listening to him speaking, I started asking myself, I wonder if Bex or Castro Southeast has a team that is actually going to be partaking. Suddenly, I became interested in knowing if we have a team, because I'm excited. I said I want to go out and support my team, because this guy was bigging up his team and how good they are and how they're going to take the trophy from, because I think presently Castries has the trophy. So so for me it's necessary, and I think the powers that be really needs to see this and not just give lip service to these sports people, but really and truly help them and develop them.
But we as a people too have a responsibility in terms of supporting the teams, because sometimes the teams play and there's nobody there watching them. You've gone to the schools activities. Well, the schools do get some kind of a following, but some even like there's an event on Sunday, which is the elite track and field, and sometimes you don't see that turnout. And I think we as a people have a role to play in supporting those activities when they happen. So if you inspire the kids by being there and encouraging them and so on, then you can start putting pressure on politicians and say, listen, you know, we are participating in this thing, we're there to see ourselves, so we want you to be able to start allocating a little bit more and so on. So I thought I wanted to start with Laverne a little bit as we were celebrating her. She's here and I think she's going to Grenada to participate in the Grenada Invitational. So she is on the move, constantly on the move.
This is the reality show on Calabash TV.
This week as well, it's Earth Day on the 22nd, so this program is airing after Earth Day. We'll be focusing once again on environmental issues, and I suppose having the same set of discussions again on environment. That's the 22nd of April, Earth Day. Michael, what probably I don't know if you go to the solar activities and so on, but what would be your thinking on Earth Day?
Well, I've never been to the solar activities, but I will go back to say that I believe in this part of the Caribbean, this part of the world, we do not pay enough attention to the environment. I could tell you, I mean, from driving around, you will see the constant degradation of the forest and the riverbanks. People just cut down trees indiscriminately. I believe there should be measures put in place to ensure that, you know, it becomes almost illegal for people to be cutting down trees, especially on the riverbanks or up in the forest at will, as they're doing now. Because whereas I mean, now we hear of the amount of silt that is in the John Compton Dam, and that is only as a result of the deforestation taking place higher up the dam. And you see again, if we were paying more focus towards the environment, we would ensure that those things are not done. And I really believe that the powers that be get the proper personnel in place. And when I say that, I make no apologies for it. Get the persons with the interest, the persons with the capabilities to manage that department, because I believe if this is not done within the next 10-15 years, you know, it will be sorry. It will be a sorry state of affairs for us.
When we talk about the environment, Ambrose, obviously your area is extremely vulnerable, and we have the hurricane season coming up pretty soon, so you'll be in for another rough, Setu shall be in for another pretty rough period as well. But even now, as we celebrate Earth Day, I'm not sensing, even in your area, Mark Bex and so on, that there's a movement to to plant trees along the riverbank or to do something. Are you sensing anything in your community?
I'm really not. I mean, I think the most activity I've seen is, I think, some people cutting overhead trees, branches. That's really what I've seen. I don't get the feeling that people are really conscious and are focusing on environmental issues. And I think Castro Southeast people kind of, I think they live with this mindset that they are living in an area where they're vulnerable to matters that would actually arise from floods and things of that sort. So I think they just kind of live with this. But I don't really see any effort. I don't think there's any organization within Castro Southeast that I have seen who are deliberately thinking of ways by which we can help ourselves. But when I think of, you speak of environmental issues, one of the things that really bothers me when we speak about Earth Day, I have a thing with people who throw garbage. I really have. I don't know. It annoys me. A few weeks ago, I was on a bus and I'm sitting next to a young person, and he's eating some food of some kind in a plastic bag, and I saw him wrapping it up, and then he just threw it out the window. And I turned to him and I said to him, Did you just throw that garbage out of the window there? And he said yes, and like nothing. The young lady behind that was sitting behind, instead of she probably yeah, you know what she did? She's asking the boy, "Hey, that's your father?" You understand?
Yeah.
So the truth of the matter is that I think young people themselves don't even realize that they are a danger to their own selves. I think a lot of St. Lucians love to say they love St. Lucia. I don't know, this is something that bothers me a lot. They always talk about how they love St. Lucia and how patriotic they are. But I don't think people realize that when they throw garbage on the street, that they are very unpatriotic. And they don't really love the country that has given them birth. Because the reality is, you cannot love St. Lucia and at the same time want to dirty St. Lucia.
That's right.
Because by throwing garbage in the street, we see the photos from waste management of all the garbage that is stuck at the end of the river, that place there by Banan. The sea there is always a mess. We see it, and yet people just not bothered. They throw garbage like it's nothing because they're all thinking that little piece of paper wouldn't make a big difference. And they don't realize that is one piece of paper, two pieces of paper, three pieces of paper. I keep saying somebody needs to do an experiment to maybe get like 1,000 people to sit somewhere and get each one of them to throw one can. To show people the reality of what if every day somebody's throwing a can somewhere, the water is going to gather it all into one place. It clogs our gutters. To me, this is the environmental issues that people really need to take, they need to take heed to. We say we love St. Lucia, we love the earth. Let's stop destroying the earth. Let's stop throwing garbage and littering all over the place.
I was doing some research on environmental groups in the communities, and I'm just calling randomly in Castries. I'm trying to find out, is there an environmental group in Castries? And everybody that was a kind of a weird and strange question, an environmental group in Castries. And to me, this is a city with a lot of environmental issues, and as we mentioned, plastics and those kind of things. To me, us as a people now ought to be responsible for doing. You can't wait for government to come and set up an environmental group in your community. And I found it strange that Castries does not have one, and I'm now going around trying to find out, are there environmental groups in the communities? I know there's one in Fanis or Babono. I don't know if there's any in Grenville. Michael, you familiar with any?
No, we have none in Grenville. But let me say here, I was very fortunate to serve on the Solid Waste Management Authority board for 5 years, and I could tell you, there has always been a problem with the Castries, not just the city, but the environment when it comes to waste management. I'm sure you could recall not too long ago, there was that whole big issue with the waste disposal in Cicero. You drive through Cicero day in, day out. There was that huge pile of garbage right along the roadside. Okay, whereas somebody was contracted to be picking up the garbage, but the garbage would stay there weeks in and weeks out. If one were to drive through the Chaussee Road near the gardens on a rainy day, you'll see that pond that is there, the amount of plastic bottles and plastic bags that is built up in there after. That little bridge at the intersection of Jeremy Street and Chaussee Road, always blocked with debris coming from New Village and higher up Mondido. St. Lucians just do not pay attention to the environment, and unless I think, again, the powers that be make it illegal to throw debris into the rivers and drains, and even putting out your garbage on days that are not garbage disposal day, make that illegal, we will have that problem in St. Lucia.
Now, that's one of the issues that I have, Michael, in terms of our dependency on the powers that be, that we as a people are supposed to be taking the lead because we're supposed to be conscious of our environmental issues. But we seem to want somebody to do. Now, the authorities have to do something. They have to pass the laws, the regulations, and they have to put in the infrastructure and the investments and the money to make things happen, because we're paying taxes, as we're paying taxes for. But I'm saying we too, as a people, have a responsibility to take the lead and put pressure on your politicians and say, listen, we're already doing this in the community. What are you doing? And to me, I'm not sensing that there's a strong enough movement. And recently we were discussing, are there any environmentalists in St. Lucia? I mean, I couldn't find people that you can call an environmentalist who's championing. There are people who work in environment agencies and so on, but to say that this is an environmentalist who's going around doing things. Michael, you know somebody?
There is one gentleman, and I must say to his credit, he's not been taken seriously over the years. There's that elderly gentleman who for years, eons have been walking in town with a one-man protest with all his placards, and he's not even been taken serious by the powers that be. So whereas we have people, I mean, we have a Jimmy Fletcher who always on the environment. There are people. It's just that they're not taken seriously, and I believe the time has come for us to put aside our partisan politics, embrace those who are interested, and ensure that we have that thing going out throughout St. Lucia. Because a while ago you just asked whether there is a group like that in the area that I live in, Grand River. There are none. And we have issues of flooding in Grand River. Okay, one will remember that Grand River, Marisil, Corinth River, you know, how that new bridge in Bois d'Orange, with the water backs up all the way into Corinth. We need to pay attention to all of that.
Yes, so the call is for us as St. Lucians to get active, and I suppose we're starting the discussion here, and I mean, we've had the discussion, but we need to start making things happen.
I was just going to say, Bernard, what you've said there, it's kind of piqued my curiosity a little about environmental groups within communities. I think an effort needs to be made to see to it that every community, or rather every constituency, has some sort of environmental group. I think that will help the situation a little bit more. But it's interesting. I was just thinking of you saying you're wondering whether they exist, and I'm just there thinking, my goodness, I don't know of such a thing. And it is very interesting that such a thing does. I don't know of it like readily. I know, like you said, a mention of the group from Babonneau,
yes,
the young people.
Yes.
I know of them.
Right.
I mean, I've heard of there's certain people, like I know there's St. Lucia's, I would say, premier artist, Laurent Xavier. I think he did do a series on the environment, restoration of this environment. Right. So he's sort of an eco-environmentalist, but he does his work through art, I guess. Right. But really and truly, I don't know. And that gentleman that Michael just mentioned, I've seen him quite a bit of time. I always acknowledge him, but I must confess, these people are never in the fore. And so it is something that is necessary.
I'm coming to you, Michael. This gentleman that we spoke about, I've spoken to him. I think his last name is Cherry, and he has his Father Earth or some name he has. Yeah. This gentleman should have been receiving one of our national awards by now.
Yes.
Wow.
You know, because to me, he's been consistently carrying this message everywhere. He was at Laverne's event talking to Laverne. So he was there. He makes time. He finds out where public events are, carnival, anytime. And he comes out, and we as a country ought to give this gentleman an award for keeping the message alive. You know, Michael, you're making a point?
But the only two persons I think I could really recall who have been really involved in the environment is deceased Coco Charles, of course, from our area, and this gentleman. And I think from the demise of Coco Charles, the whole environmental thrust in St. Lucia just went under the bridge. And I think it is, again, like I said earlier, it is high time that we revisit that area, because, like I said, if you realize the rivers are getting shallower, they're getting wider.
Yes.
Okay? And if we do not do something about it, I'm sorry, we will be.
I was going to say, rivers are drying up all over the place too. And people are not taking seriously the matter of the possibility of water wars in the years to come. I mean, look at the situation with China and India and Pakistan. They're having major issues with water. Look at how China is damming everywhere, and people are getting concerned that they are not going to have proper drinking water. We take these things for granted in St. Lucia. We're dirtying our rivers. We're messing up our little ravines. We're not, as if we take it for granted. We always have rain, so we'll always have drinking water. But the reality is, if we are destroying the basic things that God has given to us, it's not us, you know. We might be okay in 20 years. What about our children? And that's one of the things that really bothers me about us as a people, you know. A lot of solutions do not do things thinking of the children, you know. We're not here, I mean, I speak for myself, for example. According to God's calendar, I don't have a lot of time left. But I am still conscious of the fact that there's somewhere in St. Lucia, a little boy, a little girl that's 2 years old, that when they become my age, they need a proper place to that they can live within. They can have access to water, and they don't have to not having access to water, and they have to be suffering from abject poverty because a simple thing like water they cannot access.
Yeah, but I remember growing up in Barbano 25, 30 years ago, where when we go to the country, go to the river, you would find pools where you could take a head shoot and 6-7 feet deep. Now you cannot find a pool in any river that's measuring 3 feet deep. So again it goes to show that if we do not take care of the environment, if we do not take care and protect the riverbanks, okay, the sides of the river will continue to cave in and block those pools, and of course cause more degradation for us. So we really need to do something about that.
An environmental linked story. The discussion on the legalization of marijuana is getting a little more pronounced. The 20th of April is normally, it's called 420. It's the day when it's focusing on marijuana and legalization of it. And that debate is continuing. I think Antigua has stepped up the debate in terms of, legalizing it and stop punishing people for just having a stick or a couple of ounces of marijuana and so on. And I think I read a quick headline that even the government is divided as to what to do in relation to, I think it's something we have to give some thought, but I don't know, I'm sure you too, Ambrose, you've given some thought to it in terms of the legalization, decriminalization of ganja.
I'm kind of, I battle with a conclusion. For sure, I think, I don't smoke. I don't smoke weed. I think I had my experiment when I was about 9 years old.
Okay, 9.
I was about 9. I smoked for about a week, I think. and then I realized that I was threatened, and I realized this doesn't make any sense. I actually remember sitting in the mirror staring to see if I was going to get a high, and I never got a high. So I say, that makes no sense. I gave up on that nonsense. I never did it again, and since that age, the age of 9, I have never actually allowed smoke to go through my mouth. But the truth of the matter is, there are people who smoke their weed, and you cannot fight them. I think it makes no sense to send a young man to sit at Bordelais because he was caught with a stick of marijuana, or he has a little 5 bag in his pocket. I mean, I can understand the law states that it is illegal to trade marijuana, so I could understand that because the law states that if you are found with a bag of marijuana distributing and selling and you're caught, then yes, you should be arrested for that and be sent to jail. But if a young, well, not just a young person, but rather any person for that matter, is smoking their weed for their own, their own thing, they're just doing their own thing, I don't think people should be arrested for that. But it concerns me also, because yes, we can legalize marijuana, but it also concerns me whether legalization of marijuana, you might find that a lot more people might be more willing to experiment with it, because the fact remains, yes, I was watching a study in the UK, and it actually states in the study that people who are prone to schizophrenia, smoking marijuana can actually ignite that. And so marijuana does have its disadvantages. And sometimes a lot of people, they're smoking their marijuana, but they don't eat properly and that sort of thing. And that can bring on all kind of complications. So I am yes and no. But I think if it's a yes, it has to be well and properly legislated. I think there needs to be a lot of conversation on it. And so I'm yes and no.
Michael, yes or no?
Well, let me sit here and make it abundantly clear that I am opposed to all forms of smoking. As one who have never smoked, but I think I've read and seen enough of the effects of smoking on those who are practicing it. As to the legalization of ganja, I think it has been proven over the years there are medical benefits in marijuana. And if we could find, or the powers that be could find the necessary means to legalize it towards the use of the medical benefits of it, I am open to that. One could sense. I mean, walking through a community or through a back street, and where the guys are on the block smoking a marijuana, the stench. By the time you get to the other end, you all covered with that smell, and it will take a while for that stench to get off you. Legalizing marijuana will make it worse. Where you probably walk in the streets, a guy is smoking his joint, and you just blow the smoke in your face like people do. You walk by the market, the amount of young persons that will want to just sit there idly and smoke their marijuana. If any consideration is being given to that, there must be specific instructions, specific things in place to ensure that first and foremost that you don't smoke that in public. Okay, number two, that you only allow to have the most minute amount of marijuana on you at any given time, and there should not be any wholesale marketing of marijuana on the streets, because what it will do is even the very young ones that who are not into smoking, by virtue of the commercials and the blitz, and they will be tempted to try. Okay, and I mean, I have 3 grandchildren, and I pray to God that the day never comes where I would see any of them smoking.
Yeah, like you, I have the same feelings about rum as well. About people drinking too much rum and also losing their productive lives and years and so on. And with the marijuana, I agree about the decriminalization, that you really can't arrest people for a stick or two, or but at the same time I agree with you, Michael, that you have to respect the law. There's a law that you can't be in public and so on. You can do it in the privacy. I have no issues with that. I don't think we should be dedicating resources to arresting young guys and locking them up and taking away a lot of their productive years in a system that doesn't have a way of dealing with it. And so I mean, but in terms of the medical purposes, for sure, I think we ought to explore the possibilities of I'm not sure in St. Lucia economically how viable a ganja industry is going to be, because I'm not so sure we can compete if it's globally legalized. Whether our farmers have the willingness, the same issues that we have in terms of high cost of production and so on, in terms of making our ganja profitable. I'm not so sure globally that we'll be able to compete, Michael.
But I'm sure if it gets to the point where ganja is legalized, we will have probably a lot more criminal activities, because those who have the means to produce the marijuana, plant the farm and what have you, you will find those who do not have may want to, in the middle of the night, go to the farms and harvest what they didn't plant. So
just like Peter last night,
right? So I mean, it's opening the doors. It will be opening the doors to a lot more criminal activities. But I said,
but Michael, if it's legalized and everybody can plant it, you can have a couple in your backyard. So
but having said that, there are people who may not want to do it, or people who do not have the means of doing it. Like I said, if at all any consideration is been given towards the legalization, that the use of it must strictly be within your private private premises and not in public.
But I was going to say, now a lot of money obviously is made on weed because it's illegal. I don't think the drug dealers would be happy with legalization. I don't care what anybody says, because the profits will definitely decrease. Because if now you can just plant a weed tree somewhere in your backyard, you don't have to go to them and buy, so obviously they're going to make less profit. The other thing I was going to say also, I think people think that a lot of profit will come from legalization of marijuana, but I don't see how that will be. America in itself, for example, are creating laws where they themselves are growing their own weed, and as a matter of fact, they have people who are like chemists, and they're creating all kinds of strands of weed and different for all sorts of reasons. Even if it was decriminalized in St. Lucia, I mean, we cannot export it. So exporting it will still be an issue.
Right.
So it would still, what would possibly happen is now you can just grow your weed openly and still try to find the legal route by which you can ship it to other places that it's not decriminalized. I don't think the whole world is going to decriminalize weed in any time soon.
Criminal activities.
So all we're doing is probably going to be aiding people to not worry about getting arrested for the weed that they're growing, so they can illegally ship somewhere else. And so basically, I don't see how it will probably not affect us in relation to shipping, what you call the legal routes by which weed is sold. But it may impact us as a society, as Michael said, because more weed means more opportunity, and more consequences and all this sort of thing. So yes, I think decriminalize. I think there should be some degree of partial decriminalization. Maybe you can ease on not arresting somebody because you fill in the prisons with people full of sticks of weed. I think that makes no sense. If people want to use weed for their own personal use, I don't think you should make them into criminals for that. But in terms of like an outright, let's all grow weed because we're going to make so much money out of it, I don't think that makes any sense.
But on the lighter side on that, I could confess to, I mean, growing up, seeing a cousin of mine, he had smoked so much that he took a fishing hook and fishing line and he's literally fishing on the refrigerator. No, seriously, that's the effect the marijuana had on him. I don't know whether he was too weak or something, but he literally took a fishing hook and threw it on the refrigerator and he's there fishing. Okay, so again, limit the use of it and limit the places that you could use it. A recreational park should be made clear that you cannot do that there. Nowhere in public on the public streets. So there are lots to be put in place.
I was going to say also we need a lot of laws. For example, for sure, smoking in public. I mean, presently I think we need that law anyway, because you see situations where people are just smoking anywhere, how they want, when they want. They have no regard for people who are non-smokers, and the fact remains that secondhand smoke does scale. And that's a fact. So there needs to be some serious legislation on smoking in St. Lucia. I think the powers that be. One concern I have is you hear a lot of conversation about marijuana and decriminalizing and all of that. But I have not really heard anybody within government have that conversation. I don't know if... I hear the people who are pushing for it, they keep pushing their agenda, but I don't know if anybody has even bothered to give them the time of day. I think it's needed.
Well, government has set up a commission.
There's a commission. There is a commission?
Yeah, there's a commission discussing it, and they'll make recommendations to government. And then I guess when it gets to Parliament, I guess we'll have a real debate on it.
This is The Reality Show. This is happening. This is our reality. This is Calabash TV.
Before we get to Parliament, but there's a parliamentarian who is celebrating 31 years in politics, quite a long time, 3 decades, and that's Stephen King. Well-known politician. Michael, are you familiar with him?
Well, I must say, I think I've been there with Steve every step of the way, because I remember when Steve first came into politics. He was in Girardi's office at the JCs on the chaussee. That's where he started as a young man. I remember I was young in the party at the time. And Steve is somebody that I've always been close to when it comes to politics. Steve is about one of the, if he's not the most, or one of the most respectable politicians we have around, not just in St. Lucia. And I must say, he's celebrating his 31 years in politics has been. They've been good and bad. They've been good and bad. It's a really good achievement for him. And like I said, I see Steve having a few more years in politics and a few more good years, because, like I said, Steve continued to prove to St. Lucians that if they were to operate like him, a lot of the accusations we have leveled at each other in the house and in public, that would stop, because Stephenson King is, to my mind, one of the most trustworthy persons you could find in any politician. And like I said, his 31 years has been some very good years.
So there's quite a lot for other politicians to emulate in terms of Stephen King. He's obviously very strong in his constituency, so he probably is doing something right to be that long. I mean, I don't know if you've interacted with him at all, Ambrose.
Very much so.
You have.
I remember when I was a young man within Methodist Youth Group. We used to have an amazing youth group. I don't know if St. Lucia's ever had a youth group of that kind. We had about a membership of close to about 150 persons. We used to meet every Saturday right there in the Methodist Church Hall. And I remember we used to have our annual shows. And one of them, I have the picture at home to prove. Stephen King handed me a trophy because he was a guest upon one of our shows for young people. This is a politician I think I've encountered in other ways. I don't think he even knows me personally, but here's the interesting thing is there has been a time in my life where he played a role and he didn't know who I was. So I think it shows the strength of the man, his character. I must confess, out of the whole lot of present administration. I think Stephen King is the only minister of government that I would say that I have a great amount of respect for. Although I question sometimes why is he so silent on certain things, and I'm disappointed sometimes because I think of him as honorable. He's one of the few politicians that when I write his name, I actually put the word honorable in front of it, because I don't think I should call people honorable if I don't think their behavior is honorable. And so I respect him very highly. And I would say that it is quite an achievement for him to have been 31 years doing this thing. But I think it shows his personality, actually shows why he has had such longevity.
Michael, I keep hearing this thing about silence, that he is, he's probably the most senior, one of the most experienced in this government, certainly the most experienced in this government in terms of years at all levels. And people keep talking about the silence and so on. Is it more of a strategic silence?
I think, let me tell you something about Steve that a lot of people don't know. Some people are of the opinion Steve is weak, he's not articulate. Steve is very meticulous in what he does. Stephen King is not the kind of person you will say something and he will immediately just jump on your back and no. Steve is the kind of person, when he hears something, he would sit, analyze what is said or analyze what is done and form an opinion based, an informed opinion. Not as other politicians who just go about just happing their mouths, bragging all over the place, on both sides. So this is not who Stephen King is. This is why I believe Stephen King, during his tenure as Prime Minister of this country for 4 years, was able to do that well, because he did not allow, the talks on the street to push him into any direction. Some people saw it as a downfall for him. Okay, but this is who Stephen King is. Stephen King has been that way. Like I said, I'm sure most of you all do not know Stephen King as a slim man, flashing an afro. This is,
You mean he was?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. This is when Stephen King entered politics. If you were to see his very first poster, and if you were to compare that to now, you wouldn't believe that this is Stephen King. He has always been that way, and this is why I think Stephen King is so admired, so loved, and so respected, because he is not one who just. And if you were to look at his performance in the House, he do not just throw jabs at the other side. Just he would sit there, listen. He would take his notes, and when he gets his opportunity to speak, he will probably answer or reply to what the person says in a very professional manner. All right, Stephen King is not one that you could throw tantrums at to get him off his line. No.
Okay. You had some comments, Ambrose?
No. I was just saying I agree with much of what Michael says there, and I must confess, like I say again, I would reiterate, I actually do. I admire him as a politician. He's one of the few. I mean, not apart from, but rather one of the few from this group that presently exists. But like I said, I would really love to hear him give his opinion and his views on many things that I'm seeing in the country, and many people are seeing. And a lot of people are questioning, why is he so silent? And you ask whether it is calculated, whatever it is, but a lot of people are questioning why. The reason why they're questioning it, because they themselves do admire him too, and they think he's honorable, and they have this expectation that he would stand for the people. And yes, he's a UWP parliamentarian, but at the same time, people are expecting him to show, his character and stand for the people, and that's the only reason why people are asking the question. And this is not people that are UWPs. This is a lot of SLP people are asking the question why, because they do respect him. But you hardly hear people say bad things about Stephen King. He's generally a very well respected politician.
I didn't get a chance to take in the Labour Party meeting, which was held Wednesday. I don't know if you were able to take in any of the meetings. You were able, Ambrose? You were there yourself?
Yes.
Give us a quick idea of how that went.
Yeah, it was a good meeting. Lots of conversation. I think from what an overview of the meeting, I think it was just basically speaking to the public to present the information, because you've seen there's been a lot of distorting of information over the last few weeks in relation to things about investigations and things of that kind, Ernest Hilaire and Sean Edwards. And I think the party was really making an effort to really show that it's not afraid of Alan Chasney and what he's trying to do. And I think the party was really and truly, from when I listened to all the various speeches, I just think like Ernest Hilaire seems to just presented information, and And some of it, I think, he was just trying to show that, what was being said was not true. I think the thing they did in the press conference, he was just kind to compound that information. And so basically that's the impression I got from listening to the various speakers. And obviously Philippe J. Pierre, as leader, showing support for the various members of the party who actually sit in Parliament. And generally, I think that's what it was. It was just it seems like a meeting to inform the public as to what's going on and really showing them that what Alan Chastanet is doing and Guy Mayers is just a witch hunt. And there's really nothing. There's nothing to see there, but they're trying to make something out of nothing to basically, I guess, to flashing mirrors. To not let, so people do not see the reality of some of the things that are actually happening, and to remove their attention from some of the things that's actually happened, such as excessive amount of borrowing and things of that kind. And I think generally that was my view of the meeting.
Michael, you...
When I let me make it clear, and I don't care which side, whether it's the UWP side, everybody knows I'm a UWP supporter, or Labour. A public political meeting is always about semantics. It's all about trying to get the people on their side. To be honest with you, a lot of what I heard on the Labour platform at the last meeting on Wednesday was again the same semantics that we used to hearing from both political parties. I mean, of course, you would have heard Ernest defending reasons why St. Lucian should not believe that whole thrust about the investigation into his vehicles. But again, if one were to pay attention to what was said, while some people are saying Alan and his government just decided to investigate Ernest, you heard the information came from the High Commission that they believe X was done, and this is why the government took the initiative to further investigate. I mean, we must at times put aside our political bias, and when things happen, see it for what it is. Successive governments do that. Okay, and not just now. I mean, what's Sir John? Sir John was brought was investigated to the highest degree, and what came out of it? Okay, this is something that we as supporters need to tell ourselves that we need to get used to, or we need to push our politicians to get rid of that nonsense. Because I'll tell you something: the United Workers' Party will go out of office next week. And as soon as the Labour Party comes, you will have an investigation into somebody or some of them. This is something we need to get used to, and let us not just call, an investigation. It's because they want to victimize this person or victimize that person. I think collectively our politicians would say to us that look, that crap about investigate this one, investigate that one, unless we have concrete evidence that something was done wrong, that we need to stop it. But like I said, a lot of what I heard on the Labour platform has to do with semantics. Philippe Pierre, again, who like I've always said, who happens to be my friend, I believe he could have done a lot better. And what I think should be said as far as the investigations are concerned, instead of labeling it as all kind of victimization, say, look, the government has an investigation going on. Let us cooperate, and if at the end of it nothing comes out of that, then we will prove to the people where we were right, and not just try to blow it out of proportion.
Let me ask Michael a quick question before you come to you, Ambrose. The situation with the vehicles, couldn't 1 or 2 phone calls sort this out? Why are we going to spend endless money on this? To me, 1 or 2 phone calls to find out what's up with that vehicle. I'm sure it could have, based on my understanding. The budget director or the treasury or whatever indicated that this vehicle was not purchased from with monies from the St. Lucian government. As to why there's still an investigation, I don't know whether they have evidence to prove something else. But of course, there's some information is out that the treasury have said that, look, the St. Lucia government did not purchase those vehicles. As to why they're still investigating, I don't know. But like I said, I think it is a malaise that we face in St. Lucia, where we always try to make ourselves look good and make the other side look bad, and we need to stop that. Ambrose, I'm coming to you. Here's my thinking on this. That to me, some of these investigations are almost bordering on on frivolous, because I'm not saying we shouldn't. We have to investigate because you want to make sure there's accountability and you want to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do. But we know a lot of investigations, to use Donald Trump's word, are witch hunts and so on. And some of them, you could see it's very clear, it's political. And I'm thinking, and what's your thoughts on that? Shouldn't, if a government or an investigation is launched and it appears on the surface to be frivolous and the outcome is nothing and nothing happens, shouldn't we get those politicians to pay back the state for the amount of resources that were spent in conducting some of those investigations?
I agree totally. As a matter of fact, I mean, Michael said it's semantics. But you see, for me, here's how I look at it. You asked the question, couldn't two telephone calls have been made? Even after it was said that basically Guy Mayers in London probably, for whatever reason, decided that he's going to, without looking into anything, he just decided that he's going to use his position. He probably saw a piece of paper and came to a conclusion on his own about that piece of paper, and so right away giving instructions to persons in the government in St. Lucia, civil servants, to investigate Ernest Hilaire. After being told, it is said that the cabinet secretary actually said nothing to see here. To me, at that point, what should have been concluded, there's nothing to see here. So you know what? Let's leave that alone. But I think the government saw opportunity, and I do not know if it is Alan Chasney, or if it is Guy Myers, or if it is just the surrogates, because I have seen that there are a group of people who surround the government. Their duty seems to be to look to make the opposition look like a dirty lot of people. And so if that information was concluded that basically there's nothing to see here, but they're still pushing it because they're thinking that they might get some brownie points out of it and make Ernest look bad, because really and truly there is an effort to make Ernest look bad. To me, I personally think, what is the latest has been said? Ernest has presented all information. He gave information to the press. He gave all information. I actually read somewhere where somebody is actually trying to out of this United PAC, I think it was, yes, United PAC, whoever that is. But that's a surrogate of the government, and their purpose is obviously to make the opposition look bad. That's what they exist for. They are a divisive organization, and they exist simply to make the opposition look bad.
And there's that group also doing the same to government as well, right?
No, well, I don't know.
Not United PAC, I'm saying there are groups like that.
Well, they probably do.
Let Ambrose finish.
Sorry, they probably do exist.
On both sides, they have those parties.
I'm sure they're persons. That's right. And that's the game. That's the game we play. But for me, officially now, to me, okay, we have the surrogates doing what they're doing because that's what they do, because the governments need that in order to keep attention of the public. But to me, the government, when they realize that there's nothing to see here, they keep trying to get to behind Sean and this national lottery. We've gone through this in Parliament. We've gone through this. Sean has presented. He's asked if there's $1 you can show that I've taken that has gone to me, then arrest me. He is willingly saying that. What I'm saying, officially, yes, the government would say that they do an investigation. But to me, you cannot base an investigation on no information. You need to base an investigation on something. You need to have some kind of a nugget, something that you can build on. And when you have built on it, then you say, oh, and so what the investigation will do is reveal more. But as you have something, it's nothing, but then as you go, it keeps taking away from the nothing that you have. So you have nothing from nothing lives nothing. That's what the song says. So effectively, what I believe is happening, the government is going about this the wrong way. It is a fact that the investigation makes no sense. They should apologize to Ernest Hilaire for Guy Mayers having run ahead too quickly because he thought he had something to hold on to.
Ambrose, let me be honest with you. We need to stop being myopic in our thinking when it comes to these things. Okay, I'm sure you could remember the whole thing about the whole Richard Frederick thing. Right or wrong? You remember what happened? Okay? What did the other side say about it? They made a whole big brouhaha. Richard was this, Richard was that, and you remember the whole thing about immediately after the 2011 elections that the FBI and would have been here to pick him up. Mm-hmm. Where is he now?
I agree.
Where is he now? Okay, that over $3 million was spent to investigate Guy Joseph.
That's not over yet.
I'm saying it's years. Where is it now? Okay, and the amount of let me
yes,
finish.
sorry.
The amount of monies that have been spent by the other side, like I said, right or wrong, this is a problem that we have. You went about saying Guy Mears. Based on all information, it came from the High Commission in the UK. It did not specify Guy Joseph and Guy Mears. We need to stop calling out names when we do not have the. If you mention the office, okay, mention the office, not personnel. We believe that is behind it. It may very well be Guy Mears, but the information is whatever documentation that was sent came from the British High Commission, well, the High Commission office in the UK. Again, we need to understand that politicians do that first and foremost for points. Politicians do that to bolster the image of their party, okay? And irrespective of which government, which party that forms the government, Ambrose, this is a problem that we face with in St. Lucia that will not stop anytime now. Like I said a while ago, I bet you, when and if it gets to a point where the Central Labour Party were to assume office, you will immediately hear an investigation into Alan Chasney and Guy Joseph and all those they believe that did wrong during this administration. Okay, so let us for our national sake, our national pride, let us not focus on what one side does because we do not support that side and say they call it foul whilst we support the other side for doing the very same thing when they were there, and we'll do the very same thing when they re-emerge.
Here's what I want to say, Michael, for that. I want to declare it now. I agree with you. I think any party, any political party that is wasting taxpayers' money for political witch hunts, they should not do so. And they should not be allowed to do so. And here's what I'm saying. I understand what you're saying, that political parties throughout the years are doing this. But when does it come to an end?
Right.
Because, sorry, but it needs to come to an end. We need to call for it to come to an end. Because if we are going to make accommodation for the Labour Party to do it, they come into power in 2021, then they start the same process again. If you have, I'm not against investigations. I'm not saying I'm against investigation. Because I think if somebody has done something wrong, and you can clearly see there's some kind of a pathway that shows you that something is wrong, it needs to be investigated and come to a conclusion. I'll tell you some of the things that I'm unhappy about. Like, for example, let's look at the Richard Frederick situation. The Richard Frederick situation. I clearly remember it being said that what they call them, the people from the US.
FBI.
I don't think the word FBI was used. The marshals. The marshals are on their way to pick up Richard. Here's what I'm saying to you. As far as I'm concerned, that's not necessary. And I'm being honest with you, it's not necessary, because what happens is when the marshals do not arrive, then the people are disappointed. You understand? And so whatever is happening, I think if we're going to investigate, it's about time that an investigation brings about a conclusion where a politician gets charged or something. Now, I remember Alan Chasney had a case against him. And it was concluded that he did something wrong. That case was sent into appeal. It was appealed. That case was appealed, and then the new whoever the new Attorney General. I don't know what the situation is with that case, but that case did go to court, and Alan Chasney did lose the case. If correct me if I'm wrong, I think that case is on appeal now. But correct me if I'm wrong, he did lose the case. So I'm saying it's not every investigation that actually did not bring about any fruit. Some investigations were concluded, and it was the persons who were actually being investigated were effectively found guilty of something. I am not in agreement with politicians wasting taxpayers' money to investigate for nonsensical reasons or for political gain. And I'm agreeing with Michael on that. What I would like to see is us come to an end. So we're not going to live with the expectation that when the Labour Party comes into power, that it is going to suddenly start investigating Alan Chasney for nothing. Now, we speak about the office in the UK. As far as I'm concerned, Guy Myers, he is the person who is in charge of the office in the UK. If a member of his staff has pushed forward an investigation against a parliamentarian, and that person actually has done so without his knowledge or approval, that means he has no control over his office.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's not also what I'm saying. Of course, when you occupy a chair, okay, in as much as you head of the department, if your surrogates or your staff were to put evidence or information to you that here we believe X was done and it was done inappropriately, of course it is your responsibility to not just to say to them, look, no, I don't think that's, I mean, you look at it, you give the authority the information to look at it. Now the government should be saying enough to say, look, there is evidence, or we do not have enough evidence to go ahead with that investigation, and we should shelve it if we do not have enough. If they believe they have enough evidence, then they go ahead with it. And I'll tell you something. Unless people like you and myself don't sit here and say to our political parties and our friends who support the same political party as us, say to them that we need to stop. We need to tell the politicians that it is time to stop that investigation of the investigation of the investigation. It will not stop. We have to take the charge and say to them, enough is enough.
I agree.
I was trying to think of what mechanism that can be used, because once a government starts an investigation, we know it's for political purposes. Mostly, it's not that it's concerned about the resources of the country, it's that they want to score points, because if it's them, they will not investigate it. Once it's somebody else, they will. And it happens on both sides. If you now speak to anybody from the Labour Party, even before they even start campaigning for the next election, they'll tell you, oh, we want to look into this already. Even that's before they get in. So that's an ongoing cycle, which is not very helpful for the country. So I'm trying to figure out two things: whether there's any mechanism that we can use to just keep people accountable, so you wouldn't even have to get to a point. If there's like an audit, even though like the office in London, for example, there's an audit of the resources that we have, the vehicles that we have, that is scientific and properly done, that you can just look at that audit and say that vehicle doesn't belong to us, so we shouldn't be asking questions about that vehicle and those kind of things. And for other departments as well, where we've had challenges in relation to charges of corruption and so on, that if all these departments are audited properly, then the audit report will give you an idea of if there's a situation that we need to pay attention to, as opposed to a politician. Once a politician does it, it takes a totally different life of its own as a political tool that they will be using for the next election. So, and to me, that's what it is, that these investigations are basically looking for material for the next ad campaign, for the next campaign. So we need to give some thought as to what kind of mechanism that we can use as a people. We must investigate things. There are things that you must look into, but we need to find a way of doing it without it being political, because every system that this government introduces, every investigation, the opposition will see it as tainted and targeting them.
Absolutely.
And vice versa, if the Labour Party wins tomorrow, and any investigation, they will say, well, it's victimization, you're victimizing us, and so on. So we're coming to the end of this program, but it's something I want us to discuss in future programs and look at probably other jurisdictions. What kind of a mechanism is there for us to resort to, as opposed to one that is politically driven? Yeah, Michael.
Bernard, as one who have traveled the Caribbean and traveled the world observing elections, supervising elections, I'll tell you something. That government investigating opposition or investigating others, it is the worst that I've ever seen it in any part of the world. Of course, you will hear of government investigating people if there is, you have tangible evidence that somebody has done wrong. But here, people investigate you based on allegations, based on rumors, based on what a supporter say on a supporter of the party said that on a talk show. We should look at it.
That's not
we need to stop that. Of course, what's the mighty USA? What Donald Trump with all the, today something was put out where I think, what was it, 30 years ago, he lied to someone to get himself into the Fox 500, for 500, and all the tips and everything is there. He could use another name. So things like that. We need to ensure when our hard-earned monies are spent, it is spent on something that there will be an end result.
And my thing, something we need to think of is that somebody ought to pay for those investigations that go nowhere. Because if you're going to waste so much, because right now we're struggling to get money we talk about sports a while ago on Love and Spence and getting facilities for schools. And if we can easily find money for investigations, and if nothing comes out of it, to me there should be something that says, if you bring this up and it's frivolous, you should pay for it.
The politicians, I believe, need to look at their priorities. And I think this has been something that has been in our nation generally politicians, they spend money as they feel freely. Sometimes they don't spend the money on the things that are most important. But for them, it's like they're using the public purse, like sometimes as if it's their purse. And I think St. Lucia's, I don't know, how do you get the people of St. Lucia to rise up and tell the people that they need to be more accountable? And how do you, a lot of people live in fear. And I don't know, my friend George Gallian, he calls it the St. Lucian malaise. I could remember him telling me that a few years ago, and it has never left my mind. The St. Lucian malaise. We are in a situation where, how do we get out of our situation? The people need to get to a point where they say enough is enough, and they need to make politicians accountable. And we said it, I think the last program we were on, we mentioned going back to the constituency. And I don't know who is going to spearhead such a thing, but there needs to be a movement that really calls people within constituencies to really focus on their representative and demand the best. And I think if they can do so, then I think nationally we will all benefit from it.
Michael, you have the final word?
Yeah, Ambrose, what I wanted to say to Ambrose is, let it start with you and I. When we leave here, the next person we meet, we espouse that to them. And if we were to go like this, of course we will get somewhere. But if you and I come sit here and keep happing at each other as to I think my party did it right and your party did it right.
I'm feeling sure. Don't say we have.
No, I'm not saying, I said if we were to do that. I mean, there are people watching this program, okay, and they will see. But I mean, the same nonsense continues. We have talk shows all over the place, with every opportunity to get, will come and accuse one side of one thing and the other side accuse the other side of something. So my point here is, let the challenge start here. Let the challenge be put to our people out there, that we need to think of self-development. We need to think of nation building. We need to stop that crap on social media, where just Bernard yesterday, the Minister of Sports started addressing Laverne Spencer at that homecoming thing, and within seconds the attack on the lady was up in the roof, where I had to tell, and you know the gratification I had at the end of it, where they said, oh, it's Sean who get Laverne. Laverne came and Laverne thanked both administrations for the support over the years. Yeah. Right? She thanked both. But yet still on social media, one set of people will blast the government away that you didn't do anything to help Laverne. We need to stop that thing and let us think of a national, our national interest, and come together as one to make sure that we move from where we are.
Sorry,
quickly, yeah.
I was just going to ask the question: who is going to raise the white flag, though? Because I think it's necessary, and I agree. We need to build. We need nation building, and it needs to start with us. But at the same time, we need also that persons realize that they cannot approach this with a divisive mindset. And organizations, for me, I speak of any St. Lucia Labour Party organization that exists simply to make things look bad, and I also speak of organizations like United PAC and some of the surrogates that are on Facebook, who are subtly or sometimes outrageously seeking to make the opposition look bad.
Both sides.
So we need somebody to raise a white flag, and for us to really start focusing on how we're going to build ourselves as a nation.
All right, cool. I think Michael said it. We have to start. The three of us start a conversation. We'll see how far we can get, if anybody listening to us. But at least we start. The good thing we start. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, again for being here this week on the reality show. And I want to, as we leave, to again commend Laverne Spencer on her outstanding achievement. And I think that she still has a few big moments in store. And as I guess Barbano guys, we certainly want to continue to, and as St. Lucians, we certainly want to continue urging Laverne on, and wishing her all the best, and wishing her best of health as she embarks on for the next, I guess, what is it, the next Olympics. That's going to take place, I think, in Japan. I'm not sure, but I think it's Japan. So we'd like to wish Laverne all the best. And again, gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for that.
This is The Reality Show.